Cheap plastic's perfect for her, my father announced, his voice booming across the elegant dining room like a slap. She's used to bargain bin life anyway. The table exploded in laughter, sharp and cruel, as if my entire existence was the punchline they'd been saving. My aunt's crystal glass clinked mockingly against her plate. My cousin Lila leaned in with a smirk, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. Does she even have a husband, or is he just a myth because he's too poor to show up? Before we dive in, hit that like button if you've ever been underestimated, drop a comment with your city and country, and after the story, share what you do in this moment. Be real, we read every comment. Let's get into it. I didn't flinch. I just kept sawing at my steak with a flimsy plastic fork they'd kindly given me. The tines bent under the pressure, barely making a dent in the meat. Could have stormed out. I could have unleashed years of pent-up hurt. But I held back. Not yet. The long oak table stretched out like a stage for their judgment. My sister Elena, draped in her designer red dress, rolled her eyes dramatically and whispered to Dad, "Why bother inviting her? This was meant to be sophisticated." Mom sat at the head, spine straight as steel, sipping her champagne without a glance my way. She'd chosen sides long ago. Silence was her weapon. The burn in my chest grew, but I swallowed it. "I'm here for Grandma's birthday," I said evenly. "She invited me." Grandma rose, delicate and kind, squeezed my hand under the table. "And I'm so grateful you came, dear." But the rest of the room barely registered it. "Still crammed in that shoebox apartment," my uncle added with a chuckle, dabbing his mouth with a crisp napkin before I could reply. A low thrum started outside, like distant thunder rolling closer. Glasses trembled. Plates rattled. Heads turned. "What is that noise?" someone grumbled. Then the French doors burst open with a rush of wind. A sleek black helicopter hovered inches above the manicured lawn, rotors whipping the air into chaos. The brunch froze. Everyone stared as it touched down with pinpoint accuracy. The door slid open. He emerged. Tall, black suit tailored sharp, sunglasses reflecting the sun, collar ruffled by the downdraft. Security followed, silent shadows at his back. The moment his polished shoes hit the stone patio, my father's face went pale. He stepped back instinctively. My husband. The one they'd mocked as invisible or broke. He strode in without a word of explanation, eyes sweeping the room once. Then they locked on me. He crossed the space, bent down and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. "Ready to get out of here," he murmured. My heart squeezed. Still holding the bent plastic fork, I nodded. "Yeah, I'm ready." The room was statue still. Elena's jaw dropped. My uncle's fork clattered to the floor. Lila's champagne glass slipped and shattered softly on the rug. "You married him," my father croaked. My husband, Alexander Kane, turned slowly. His voice was calm, almost amused. "You're welcome for not pressing charges last summer when your whole family crashed my private venue and had no idea who owned it." Dad's color drained completely. We walked past them, steps measured. I didn't need grand speeches. But at the door I paused, set the mangled plastic fork gently on the table. "Thanks for the meal." We stepped outside. The chopper's roar drowned out everything else, but my heartbeat was louder. Alexander took my hand, steady and warm. For the first time in forever, the weight I'd carried, the snide comments, the eye rolls, the assumptions, finally lifted. As we headed to the helicopter, I glanced back. Through the glass, they stood frozen, staring at the girl they'd dismissed, now leaving in a private chopper with a man they'd called a fantasy. Dad looked like he'd been hit by lightning. The flight lasted barely 10 minutes before we landed on a rooftop overlooking the city. "Where are we?" I asked, pushing wind-tossed hair from my eyes. Alexander smiled. "Home." I blinked. "What?" He led me to the edge. Below, a sprawling penthouse, floor-to-ceiling glass, infinity pool, skyline views that stole your breath. "I was saving this for later," he said, pulling out a slim black folder. "But after today." Inside the deed, our names side by side. "You bought it." I whispered. Last month. Closed yesterday. He traced my cheek. No more plastic forks. We stepped inside. The space was perfection. Warm woods, soft lighting, thoughtful details that screamed love, not just money. On the marble island, a cake with elegant silver script. To my wife, Happy Independence Day. Tears came before I realized. Alexander wrapped me from behind. I know it was rough. You didn't have to prove anything. I wasn't proving, I said, voice thick. I just wanted to be treated like I belonged. You're not a stray. Never were. My phone buzzed. The family group chat was exploding. Lila, that's your husband? He looked shorter in photos. Uncle. Wait, isn't that Kane who acquired Riverfront Plaza last year? Dad. We had no idea. Come back. Let's talk. Alexander read over my shoulder. From ridicule to begging in under an hour. I laughed sharp, freeing. Typed one line. I didn't marry him to impress you. I married him because he saw me when you never did. No replies came. That night, we lounged on the rooftop terrace, city lights twinkling below like fallen stars. Alexander chuckled. Your dad's face was priceless. I know, I said. He always measured success by flash. I never fit. Now he sees you're not just successful, you're unbreakable. Alexander wasn't some fairy tale savior. He was the man who'd held me through panic attacks at 3 a.m., who gave me space to fight my battles but never let me stand alone. His quiet support had always been louder than their noise. Next morning, a knock. Alexander asleep, I opened the door. Dad stood there, same jacket, no driver, no show. I didn't know, he said, voice small. Didn't know he was that. I crossed my arms. So if he wasn't, I'd still be the one with the plastic fork. He had no answer. I raised you better, he tried. No, Dad. You raised me to think worth comes from money, that I was less because I wasn't loud. But I was always enough. I just needed to stop chasing your approval. He blinked hard. You should go. I closed the door, on the house on the old hurt. That chapter ended. Afternoon, I stared at the pool, sun glittering like diamonds. Inside, the war was over. Alexander joined me. You okay? For the first time in years. Yeah. You handled him like royalty. I didn't want it to go there. But maybe it needed to. We sipped iced coffee, wind playing with the curtains. Peaceful silence. Phone buzzed again. Elena. Can we talk? I was wrong. Mom. Your dad didn't mean it. He just didn't know. Uncle. We misjudged. You're doing amazing. I locked the screen. Alexander raised a brow. What? Half apologies. Regret because they lost, not because they hurt. Respond. No. They ignored me when I needed kindness. Now they want back in because they're embarrassed. Truth. That evening, we dressed for a black tie gala his foundation hosted. Valet handed me flowers. For Mrs. Kane. Card from Grandma. Your silence yesterday spoke volumes. You've become the woman I always saw. Elegant, fierce, untouchable. Forever love. Tears welled. Alexander grinned. Let's own the night. We did. Red carpet flashes exploded. Mr. Kane, who's the beauty? Not a date, he said, arm around me. My wife. Murmurs rippled. I saw old college co-workers who'd sneered when I waited tables. Now stiff smiles. At our table, CEOs asked my thoughts. I spoke freely. Belonged. Later phoned Dad. Saw you on TV. Mom cried. No reply. I owed them nothing. Back home, barefoot in the penthouse, Alexander said. You've been quiet. Thinking how I waited for their validation. I gave them too much power. You're free now. I wasn't the cheap daughter anymore. I was me enough. A week later, fancy invitation. Family reconciliation dinner. Please. I held it over the bin. Alexander watched. Going. What do you want? I dropped it. Peace. He smiled proudly. Closure isn't apologies. It's breaking the cycle. Then Mom called. Your dad regrets it. He's changed. Would you come? Why now? Because he saw the world honor you first. It's destroying him. I glanced at Alexander. He nodded. Whatever I chose. If I go, it's as me. No mask. If not, I walk. Fair. 3 days later I returned. Alone, no chopper. Just me. Dad opened the door. Smaller, humbler. I wasn't sure you'd come. Neither was I. He stepped aside. Table set simply. Grandma beamed. Others shifted uncomfortably. Dad cleared his throat. Before we eat. I was wrong. I judged, mocked, encouraged it. No excuses. Why now? The helicopter. Your husband. I realized I wasn't the strongest there. Not the money, the way he looked at you. You were always worth everything. I was blind. I met his eyes. You didn't just judge. You made it a family sport. I know. No forgiveness expected. Just a chance. Then treat the next woman who enters here like she matters, even with a plastic fork. He nodded, ashamed. We. Not perfect. Honest. More than before. Grandma slipped me a box. Your great-grandmother's. She built from nothing like you. Gold locket. Strength doesn't scream. It endures. I hugged her tight. You've always stood tall, she whispered. Back home, Alexander asked. Worth it. For me. To say it aloud. Close it right. What now? I smiled at the city lights. Now I live boldly. No apologies. They laughed at the plastic fork. Now I own the world.